Okay, Tov, good morning. So we have discussed the details with regards to opening a shop and also employing Jewish people on the Moed. And one final point before we move on to the next topic is with regards to employees. We've discussed extensively if you're self-employed, you're independent, when you are allowed to have your business open and you're not allowed to, and so on. But what happens if I'm an employee and I need to work with someone? Do I need to take off the days of Chol HaMoed? So in the past, people had less rights in terms of labor and in terms of employment. And you weren't always able to take off when you wanted to. And if you do take off, then you will lose your job. In such a circumstance, certainly a person is allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. Because if they don't, they're going to lose their job at the very least. They won't be able to uh, hold down their job, and it's going to affect their ability to perform their job in the long run. And therefore, that would certainly be permissible. And not just that, although we've learned that a person is not allowed to intentionally rely on Davar HaAved and intentionally push off a melacha to do on Chol HaMoed, shelo yichaven melachto b'moed. But if a person is taking on a job, when he takes on the job at the beginning of the year, he knows he's going to have to work on Chol HaMoed, and if he doesn't, he's going to lose his job. Even in such a case, the poskim write a person is allowed to, because it's not like he's intentionally doing it. He's got no choice. He needs to take on this job, and part of it is being able to work on Chol HaMoed. So then that's considered Davar HaAved, and a person is allowed to take on the job. However, nowadays, in most Western countries, employees have strong rights, and you have holiday rights. And part of that is you can take off as long as suitable notice is given in advance, appropriately according to a person's agreements, you can take off. And so, really, if it's possible, one should be attempting to take off for Chol HaMoed. And I know it's very difficult. It's hard enough people taking off for the Chag, especially when the Chag falls in the middle of the week. And to take off on Chol HaMoed as well, if you take off Pesach and Sukkot, Chol HaMoed, you're not going to be left off with any annual leave, and you won't be able to go away at all during the rest of the year. Some of the poskim take on that that's required. That is required to take off. You have the ability to take off. If by taking off, even though you're allowed to, it's going to affect you detrimentally in your job, then that would be fine. If people see how he's taking off in the middle of October, in the middle of April, he's taking off 8 days straight consecutively in the middle of a very intense project at work, and that's going to have an effect on your work. And when you come back, then even though legally you can do that, but it's still going to affect you and your long-term employment. But in a situation where it's not going to affect you at all, and it's absolutely fine for you to be able to take off 8 days in October and 8 days in April for Pesach and Sukkot. All that means is you're going to have far less annual leave to take off the rest of the year on holidays in the winter and in the summer. Strictly speaking, it would seem that would be the necessary and the correct thing to do. Is there an argument to say that it's considered Davar HaAved because if I take off now, I won't be able to take off any other time during the year, and it's going to affect me not being able to go away in the summer? I think that's a very difficult question, and that needs to be discussed. Each person in their specific and personal circumstances to go through that with someone who understands all of this. But it's a very difficult question. If it's possible, then a person should certainly a person should take off over Chol HaMoed if that is possible. Tomorrow we'll move on to discuss the second major heter of doing work on Chol HaMoed, and that is tzorchei harabim, things which are for the public use and public necessity.